one of the most important components of the school, of our students' experience, okay? The host family is number one. The school is number two, because they are coming here for an educational experience. So, one of the first things we have to start with is we need to do what? How are we going to know anything about our schools? What do we need to do first? We need to complete the high school survey form. Start local. Branch out until you can get the number of school slots that you need for the students that need a place to call home. When we are trying to determine who we talk to about our school slots, sometimes that takes a little bit of time. Have you ever called a school and the very first time they say, let's see, Jack Sprout is your school contact, and you need to talk to Jack about the acceptance of exchange students. Have you ever called and talked to Jack on the very first time? Never. But they will always put us through to their voicemail, or that's happened to me. So I will always leave a message on the voicemail. And then I follow up with an email. I let him know who I am, where I'm calling from, what I'm calling for, and I leave my contact information with him. Sometimes I will go as far as to also include the ICS data sheet. Our current CSIET certification, I'm sorry, it's one of those mornings. And I want them to know who we are so that when he talks to me, he's not kind of like, who is this lady and what does she really want? I've given a little explanation, and sometimes I will put a little more detail in that follow-up email. And then I keep calling and keep calling and keep calling. But I find that oftentimes I will get a response via email much sooner than I will ever get a phone call back. So it's super important that we follow up with that email. It takes us a little bit of time. If you don't want to have to recreate that email every time, create it, save it, and then just edit the name and make it personable. I think if we identify them by their name, it makes a big impression, because we're not just actually reaching out to anybody. We're reaching out to Jack Sprout because we used his name. So right then, we're going to start building a relationship with Jack, because now he knows, oh, I remember Kelly Clark from ICS did leave a message on my voicemail. Now I have her email. She must really want something, because she is really reaching out. So the name of the game is follow up, follow up, follow up, follow up, follow up. So once we find out where we have our schools after completing that high school acceptance form or the high school survey form, we want to start building the relationship with our schools. When I lived in Las Vegas, we had, at the time, there was 38 high schools in this city that I could work with. And I found out very quickly, the high schools don't accept exchange students. It's at the district level. Well, the person who had worked Las Vegas prior to me did not have the greatest relationship with the school district. And I went in and I introduced myself to James, and I said, "Hi, James, I'm Kelly Clark, and I am the new regional director here in Las Vegas, and I'm going to be sending you student applications that we're going to need approval on. What is your protocol?" So I wanted him to tell me what he needed as the school official. I didn't guess what he might want or what he might need. I asked him, what do you need? How do you like our school or our student profiles to come over to you? What do you want? And he was very specific. On the first page, I want the high school acceptance form. Pointer. Have every single thing filled out on that high school acceptance form except for their signature. And if by chance you don't know the start and end date, that should be the only thing that is not filled out on that high school acceptance form. We have to make the school's job as easy as possible. And in doing so, it's going to make us stand out against our competitors. One thing I learned very quickly. Yes?
I'm brand new, so.
Okay.
Do LCs work with the school, or is it the field person?
Okay. Great question as a new local coordinator. Every region is a little bit different. So you will need to talk with your regional director. Most of the time, I'm going to say in most areas, everyone reaches out to their own schools within their local community. Sometimes there's already a relationship built, and your regional director will let you know that. Okay? So it would be best to check with her. So, okay, let's see, where was I? Oh, so I asked James what he wanted, how he wanted it done. And he said, I want the high school acceptance form on the front. Then I want the student application, but I do not want any photos. I do not want, any of this, any of that, whatever. He said, I need the first 2 pages of the application. I need all of the school transcripts, and I need all of the medical forms. So I think it's 3 and 4 or something like that on our application. And he said, that's it. So what I had to do is I had to print and scan those pages in exactly the way he wanted them to be able to get them over to him. But he said, Kelly, if you do that, we're going to have a great relationship and we're going to be able to build this thing and go places. But he said, I will tell you, if you send me an email with the high school acceptance form and another email has their application and another email has their school records and their medical records, he said, I am not your secretary. I am here to give you something. He said, so you give me a complete packet and I will give you the school slot. He said, if I don't have a complete packet, it is going in the garbage and I'm going to move to the next one. And so that made an immediate impression on me that I had to make sure that my job was completed thoroughly and everything was together from the very beginning. And that relationship continued to grow. Let me tell you, the next thing I did was I would step in at different times during the year just to say hello to my school district official who accepted our students on program. Sometimes I would bring donuts for their office. Sometimes I would bake goodies and drop off a platter of goodies. Other times I would take a little plant or a little flower that they could plant. I did lots of different things to build those relationships with my school official because it allowed me a lot of advantages. When I was in a tight spot and I needed one extra slot and our deadline was passed, Kelly, you can have it. When a student needed to be transferred to another area for one purpose or another, I could call James up and say, ICS has a student that needs to come to our area. Will you please give me a school slot for the rest of the year? Kelly, you can have it. If you build a strong relationship, you are going to get those types of answers. That relationship isn't built in a day. Rome was not built in a day. It takes time. And just like when we plant a seed, we have to nourish that seed. And it will grow and it will start to sprout. And then it will blossom and it will come to fruition. And that's the same way with our relationships with our schools. We have to start at the bottom oftentimes, and then we work our way up. But the stronger our relationship with our schools, we are going to be much more successful. The name of the game is follow up, follow up, follow up. Also, relationship and communication. It's so important that we respond. Maybe the school is asking for something that we don't have. Perhaps maybe the student did not have their visa, or is it the visa? Yes, all of a sudden my mind went blank. No, the passport. Maybe they don't have their passport photo at the time they submit their application, and the school needs that. Or maybe they did not have the birth certificate yet uploaded into that high school acceptance form. If I have a situation like that, whenever I send that application over to the school, I will always make note that the birth certificate is pending or the passport photo is pending so that he knows that I didn't leave it out on purpose or that I was trying to pull a fast one over on him just to get my student accepted. You had a question in the back?
No, I just wanted to say, to elaborate on what you were saying as far as building a relationship, like for me, with Gwinnett County, that was one of the toughest counties in Atlanta to get students into.
Mm-hmm.
And in my mind, I felt like I was bugging them, but I wanted to plant that seed, and I wanted my name to be the first thing they thought of when they walked in the door in the morning.
That's right.
I kept calling and emailing and calling, and they kept telling me, well, we don't know. And because of my persistence, and when I delivered my package, I put them in to where they had less work to do. So when the time came for them to make a decision, I was one of the first LCs to deliver my package to the school. I was there before they even opened the doors that morning.
There you go. I love it. One word that Beverlyn stated, persistent. We have to be persistent in what we do because sometimes we're going to get that no. But if you're like me, I'm not going to settle for that no. One way or another, I'm going to get that school slot. You know what I'm saying? If I need it, I'm going to get it. It doesn't matter what I have to do and how I have to get there, but we're going to get that school slot. So persistence, follow-up. It's the key to our success. Now, there are going to be times that those roadblocks are going to be pretty set, especially this year as we're coming out of COVID. Many of those schools are still very strong in stating, no, we are not going to accept those students. And that's where I want to encourage you. Branch out from your immediate area. If you need to go, start with 10-mile radius outside of your immediate area. Branch out to 20 or 25 or 50 if you need to. There are school slots out there, but they're not in our great big schools like they usually are. They're in our little tiny schools. They're the schools that are accepting our students right now, and we have to get in front of them because right now it is a feeding frenzy for school slots because there are competitors that are doing exactly the same thing that we are, and we want to be able to make sure that all of our students have not only a host family, but they have a school slot. So we've got to really go home and get on it as quickly as we can. Even if you have 10 slots in your immediate area, branch out 10 more miles. Survey those schools, get those forms into rows, and let's see if we can't place a few more students outside of your area. Yes?
I found with a lot of my communication with the principal or whoever my contact person is, the ELPA scores are not always available for us. And I think that becomes a frustration point for the principals because they always have to come back and ask for it. Some of the applications, they might, be on there, but the majority of them are not. And I think that would really help LCs to be able to have that available. So when we do send the profile over, it's just one more follow-up irritation for them that
Exactly.
that's one of the main things that they're looking for.
Okay, and I will make note of that because that's important. And for you guys to share those things with us, that can help us to reiterate again with the partners. This is something that is essential in getting the school slots as quickly as possible and getting your student placed, is if your file to us is complete from the get-go.
I want to piggyback on that because now with COVID, we're seeing more and more of the kids taking the online LTIS versus the traditional. And our schools don't know what the online scores mean or how they translate to the traditional one. So they might have a parameter, okay, we only want kids with scores above 240, but they don't know what that is in the online one, and neither do I.
Okay, so we need to make sure that we get that notification to everyone what the online score range is so that you have that available for your schools. Yes?
Would you recommend, is it more proactive to find a family first and then go to the school and say, I have a family in your district who's interested, or do you go to the school first and see who? Because like, if a family's interested, I haven't had an issue with the school saying no. There's not a lot of competition in that area.
Okay.
Would you recommend going for the families first or the schools first?
Okay, I think that is kind of an individual question. It depends on your area. It depends on your schools.
Depends on the time of the year also.
It does depend on the time of the year. We can't just say blanket, you have to do this, this, and this. I think it depends on you. And I feel that for each of us, building that relationship from that very first phone call or that very first email is important. Even if I don't have a family yet, I would still get my school slots. I like to have lots of things going on at the same time. Maybe you have a family that is ready to host and you don't have a school slot there. Well, you're going to start reaching out to that school. But maybe the school that's 5 miles up the road, you already know you have school slots in. We have to have tons of things in the pipeline all at the same time. We can't just do one and then do the next thing and then do the next thing. Or we're never, ever going to get all of our students placed. We need to have everything the same as like when we're making a placement. We have somebody that is interested. We're talking to them. We have somebody filling out CBCs. We have another person that's doing their application, finishing it up, somebody choosing a student. You've got 20 things going on all at the same time. We need to be that way with our schools as well. We can never have too many school slots. Never. So even if we don't use them this year, you might be using them for January. Or maybe you have a family that can't host this year, but they want to host next year. And in October, you see the students for 2022, and you can already have your placements done for next year before the end of 2021.
I've got a school district that, excuse me, there are only 3 schools in the district.
Mhm.
For the past 10 years, he's worked exclusively with us. This year, he said, no students. He said, as a board, we made the decision. It was the person that's such a lot. I've got 3 families in that area that want to host. I don't know what to do. I called him twice.
Okay.
I don't want to make him mad.
Okay, this is what we're going to do, Alita. This is what we're going to do. You're going to talk to your families, and you're going to ask them to go into the school. And you let them know, I am a taxpayer in this community, and I want to host a student. I want this experience for my family, and I think it'll be a great experience for our school to bring this culture into our community.
He gives me 5 slots in each of the 3 schools.
Mhm.
So that's 15 placements that I'm losing.
Well, I would send some families in there. Sometimes our families can pull strings that we can't pull because they're like, oh, yes, they are that taxpayer in this community. And they've got a high school student in my school. And they play great sport. You know, I mean, they start looking at all these factors and they're like, well, maybe I can make an exception or two.
I want to ask Elena a question. So is it because of COVID or is it because?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So that's probably.
Hey, I'm looking for Principal Clark.
Well, that would be me.
I got students from Korea and from Japan and Norway who need school slots.
What organization are you from? I'm not sure I know who you are.
My name is Vinny Ballerino.
Vinny, that doesn't trigger.
I'm from ICES.
Who's ICES?
This is a company from Las Vegas.
From Las Vegas?
Yeah, we have foreign exchange students from all over, and we want to have school slots from you so we can place them.
Okay. And how long will these students be here?
I don't know, school year.
And how do you interact with these students?
How do I interact with the students?
Yes.
You know, maybe take them to some ball games and stuff. Who knows?
What can you bring to our school, though?
Students.
Is there anything that we need to provide for your students outside of an education?
Culture. Like me, for example. I got lots of culture. I got cheesy Pringles and water.
Okay. Well, Vinny, if you could leave me your card, let me talk to the school board and we'll determine if maybe we might want to partner with you.
You don't want to work with me? What's going on here?
Okay. Is this the way we want to go into our schools?
Yeah, this looks really great. Yeah, well,
Okay. Thank you, Jared.
You're
Or
welcome.
Vinny. Thank you, Vinny.
You're very welcome.
Okay, so many times we are really wanting that school slot. And sometimes our schools will call us back at the most inconvenient times. We've just come from the gym, or we've been sitting at our son's baseball game and we're hot and sweaty and our hair's a mess. And, you know, we've got that messy bun going on and, you know, we're kind of sweated out. We've been in the heat, you know. Do we need to go to our schools looking like that? No. We want to set a good first impression. We want to go in there professionally because that's what they're going to remember. The first thing they're going to remember is what our appearance was when we stepped in front of them for the very first time. So please dress professionally. Business casual, business, but we don't want to go with shorts and a raggy t-shirt or like Vinny who came in. You didn't really see his t-shirt, so that's a good thing. Okay, back here first.
What I like to do sometimes is with a school that I work with many times.
Mm-hmm.
I do go there looking professional, but I also email the principal at the beginning of the school year the high school packet.
Mm-hmm.
I always print off the high school packet, put it in a nice folder, and then I always print off the certificate of appreciation. And I always put their name on it, and I always put the year that they started taking the current date, and I put in money franking it. So I always do that every year when I go. Same thing with the counselor packet.
Okay.
If it's a new school, I still do the same thing.
Okay, so once we know that we have school slots or we know that we're going to be placing a family in that school, I usually make a stop by the school because I want to introduce myself. My name is Kelly Clark. I work with ICS, and I have placed a couple of students in your school. We are so excited to partner with you this year, and we hope that it'll be a great experience not only for our students, but for our American students as well. I feel that if we have opportunities to volunteer at our schools, our high schools, middle schools, elementary schools, in some way, that it really makes us stand out against our competitors. It could be, you could help at the ticket counter. You could do the spring fling or the fall festival at an elementary school. Bring your kids with you. Let them help. Let them talk to families. The very best form of networking is to have one of those students with you. Who would not have hosted? If you've never hosted before, after you heard those students on the panel yesterday, how many of you would have decided to host? I think everybody. Whenever I have actually had students come to events that I've held, I've done a lot of informational meetings about hosting in my home for neighbors or people in the community that I thought would be really great host families. And I brought them all together because when you have them in a group, it allows you to be able to share the same information with multiple people at the same time, and every single person has different questions that everybody can benefit from the answers. What do I do? Well, I always have some, like, either dessert or some appetizers, but I talk to them. I like to have my students there, and I'll ask them to share their story, where their dream began to become an exchange student, what it was like when they found out where their host family lived and where they were going for the exchange year, and what it has been like since they have arrived in the U.S. It is amazing the power of a story from an exchange student. Almost every time, I will have at least 50% of the people or the families in my audience choose to host, at least 50, whenever I hold one of those meetings. I've done one at the public library before. I put up a flyer stating that we were going to have a informational night about foreign exchange, and there would be some students from across the globe there with me. We had a great attendance. We had lots of potential families, and we did have a lot of families that did sign up. So every time you can get in front of people, it makes such a big difference, and those students can help you so much. Even as we're building those school relationships, your student plays soccer, or they're in the drama club, or they sing, or they play an instrument. Go to an event. You don't have to go to all of them. We don't have time to do that. We all have families. I understand that. But if you can choose something that each of your students do, and you can go to one thing to support them, we're going to stand out. Our schools are going to be like, oh, look, that is that student's local coordinator, and they are here. That's awesome. Then they're going to realize that we believe in what we do. I want to skip over, let's see. Okay. First impressions go a long way. When we introduce ourselves to the school, I always like to go bearing gifts because that makes me stand out. They're going to remember, oh, that's the donut lady, or that's the cookie lady, or she brought me the nice plant that's sitting on the corner of my desk. I like to sometimes do treats, but I sometimes like to bring a plant because it symbolizes to me, okay, I've planted the seed and that seed has sprouted. They're going to have to nourish it, and they can nourish that seed by allowing me to place students in their school and bring culture here and allow our students to experience the American high school culture. I always make sure my business card is on the bowl of the plant so that they can glance. Every time they look at that plant, they're going to see my name and they're going to remember me. You can do different things. You can do coffee mugs. You can do, I have often done a notepad with a pen and my business card on there. But remember things. Once you've placed all of the students for that school year, let's say our school, we placed 5 students. Once the deadline has come, I will actually always take something to my school official that at the high school. Even though they were accepted on the district level, I went to the high schools because I want them to know who I am. I am building that relationship. I let them know what my expectations are. Every month I will be contacting you. I need to know how my students are interacting at the school. I need to know the school grades for the student in each class. And I need to know if there's anything that we need to address with our student.
When you go to the schools to visit with them for the first time, do you call ahead and make an appointment, or do you just go and take the chance that the person you speak to will be there, or how do you?
Sometimes I try to make an appointment. Sometimes they're really busy and they don't want to make that appointment. So if that is the case, and they've kind of said that, sometimes I'll just stop by and drop off something and say, hey, I just want to drop this off and introduce myself. I'm Kelly. I hope you're having a great day, and I look forward to working with you this year. Make it short and sweet. It doesn't have to be any long meeting with that person. Once we've already placed our school students there, we just want them to see us. We want them to recognize who we are. They're going to remember. They will always remember who we are. One thing I want to point out is, as we're building those school relationships, we want our schools to know that we are on their team. We're going to work collectively with them, without a doubt. We are going to be there to help them every step of the way. Our students are our number one priority. No matter what, we will be there to help support that student to have a successful exchange experience in their school. And again, provide that thank you note. I do it via email, but I also make sure that they get a thank you note that is handwritten from me. Because how many of us like to get something handwritten that's not a bill in the mail? I know I do. And how often does it come? Very seldom. So it really stands out to me. We want to make sure that those lines of communication are open with our schools. And if we're building strong relationships, we're going to be able to call on them at any point in time that we need help with a student for one purpose or another. Or that school's going to know, my student or ICS student that Terry has in my school is struggling. There's something going on, and we can't pinpoint what it is. And they're going to call Terry and say, listen, something's going on with Johnny, and we're not sure what it is. Do you know something that's happening at home? Is there something back in their home country? How can we work together to make him be able to get over this hump in the road so that he can be successful for the rest of his year? But if you don't have that relationship with them, they're not going to call you. They're just going to be like, oh, that student is failing. And sometimes they get shoved to the back. And we don't want that ever to happen, because we want our students to have the very best experience possible. And there are times they're going to be homesick, or they're going to be struggling with something. Maybe after they got to the U.S., they find out that their mom and dad's getting a divorce. When they go home, it's going to be a totally different situation than what it was when they left. They're struggling. They don't know who to talk to. They're afraid. They're scared. And we need to have that relationship with the school so that they know they can call on us. We can help our student through that. Yes, our host families will, but I think it's important that we also do that for our students. The bigger support our students have, the greater success they are going to endure while they're here at school. Okay, you stole some of my thunder. It's okay, I loved it. She said that she often prints the certificate of appreciation that's in Zap Resources, and she provides it to her school at the end of the year. I think it's just as important to make recognition at the end of the year as it is at the beginning with a thank you. I love the certificate of appreciation, but why does she put it in a frame and not just take them the certificate? Can anybody tell me?
Because then it's a done deal, they could just hang it up.
That's right.
Charges that.
That's exactly right. If we just hand somebody a piece of paper, what's going to happen? 9 times out of 10, it's going to go in the XYZ file, or it's going to get lost on the desk in the million applications that counselor or principal may have and is looking through. And if we provide that certificate in a frame to the school, it's going to get hung on the wall. I have gone into many of my high schools, and I have seen that certificate in the front lobby. Now, when you go to the front lobby of a school, you're waiting to meet with your school counselor about the acceptance of a student. What do? I'm not going to sit on their little nasty chairs that 100 kids have sat on. I'm walking around. I'm looking at what's hanging on the wall. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, there's my certificate. And that's what other parents are going to do. Potential host families, they're going to see that certificate. And it will provide opportunities for us. It also makes us stand out. difference.
Do you suggest including like the host family names and the host, or the students on it, so that there's, that's.
I forget what it looks like. What do you write on there? Is it just our name? Right, that's what. Right, so it, correct. Right. That's right. So I love that. So primarily it just puts the school name on there. You put your name as the local coordinator and then the years that you've worked with the school. And I think that's something that's pretty standout. It really makes a difference. One of the ladies in the last session, she said that she often will have a plaque made. And every year she gets a little tab, printed up, and it has the year that, and every year she goes and attaches another plate to that plaque that she has hanging in the school so that they can see that, that we've had students there for this year and this year and this year and this year. I know sometimes it's really important also if we have exchange students that have some big award or something at the school, oftentimes they're recognized. If there's something in the newspaper about your student or something like that, go and thank the school for providing that opportunity for that student. Oftentimes we don't think about that. We're like, oh, our student just scored 21 points in the championship basketball game, and they made the front page of the newspaper, and we're super excited. But do we go to that school and thank them for the opportunity that that student had to be a part of their school community and to be able to make a presence? A lot of times we don't. I didn't for a long time, and then I realized what a difference it made when I started to recognize and bring to the forefront each and every one of my students' accomplishments that was made really big in our community. And then they start realizing, oh my gosh, Kelly has placed some really great students in our school. Look at this. He did this. She did that. It really tends to continue to build. And I think that is one of the keys to our relationship with our schools, being in front of them, talking to them, following up, giving them those thank yous, being sincere in all that we do. I want you to always remember to begin with the end in mind. Build a relationship that is strong. Let them know that we truly care about our students. They're our number one priority. Make your school feel appreciated. I think all of us need to feel that we are appreciated, that we are special, that we have provided something for someone else. Stand out. There's a lot of other competitors doing exactly what we are, but we always want to be a step ahead, and we want to shine a little bit brighter than them. If we do these things and we need a favor, most likely that favor will come. And I just want to say how much I appreciate each of you being here. And I hope that you have gleaned something from the presentation that you'll be able to take back and you'll be able to implement, and it will help you to find greater success. It's like Jared said yesterday, what's the most important thing that we can do? It's to be a little bit better every day than we were the day before. I don't think it matters how long we've worked in exchange, 1 year, 2 months, 20 years, we can all learn something different. After one of my presentations yesterday, I learned 2 things brand new I'd never even thought about before, and I was like, oh my gosh, that's so awesome. So, I think that if we continue to learn and grow and remember to educate our educators, because many times they don't know what exchange is about. They don't know what we need from them. We have to educate them. If we do, we will build that relationship that will bring success for us year after year after year. And that's all. Thank you so much.